when I was invited to join the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, we had certain people who were working on voter registration, and they had selected Albany, Georgia, or Albany, Georgia had been selected as a place to work. Now, there's been a lot of misconception about this question of Martin Luther King and Albany, Georgia, and because I recently heard someone was saying, well, I'm not sure, but how there was some recent meeting, I can't recall the exact meeting now, but you know, if they felt that his role was misunderstood. Well, the fact of the matter is that the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee had assigned people to work in Albany, Georgia, on voter registration, and that they were doing that. And well, there was some discussion, I think, at the Schaumburg. They had some people from the Albany movement. Well, the fact is that what happened was that, you know, reports started coming back from the people in Southwest Georgia that they had to start some demonstrations in order to shake the shackles of fear that had been imposed upon black people in that area over 100 years. You know, I mean, and the people were, and they didn't want to register to vote because of these shackles of fear, but they felt that if there were demonstrations, direct action programs, that it would be helpful in terms of registering voters. Now, we approve that as an organization, you know, that if, you know, saying that if you want to shift from just, if you want to add, and it was not a shifting from, but it was adding direct action, you know, toward the activities in order to shake what was called the shackles of fear. Now, as the executive secretary of the organization and having had my experience in Fayette County with the press, and I knew a lot of people that, you know, to give us some time, you know, it takes time to move cameras and people around and so forth and so on. So we indicated to them that, you know, that there was going to be activity on November the 1st, that we were going to test whether or not the interstate commerce ruling that segregation in interstate travel was illegal, you know, was going to be a reality, and that and eventually, you know, that we were able to do that. But in terms of the activity in Albany, Georgia, there was also the question, a lot of the press was notified that there were going to be demonstrations, you know, on the part of the people, and that they, you know, try to move your cameras, try to get set, try to be there, and they were there. But the impression has been given, and all due respects to Martin, you know, that he was the one who basically led these things, but we're going to get to something very, very important about Martin Luther King based upon this discussion, that I was in the room where Dr. Anderson, I think it was Reverend Abernathy called Martin, and that, he called Dr. Anderson, saying that, you know, that Martin could come into, he would get them headlines. Well, the demonstrations had started, and they were being broadcast all over the world. They were being shown on pictures and so forth and so on. You know, so that but Martin's method of operation was to wait, to try to move in at the height of the momentum. Even John Doerr, with all due respects to him, you know, and he was a good friend of mine, this is nothing negative about to say, was telling me, say, like in the Selma experience, how Martin was getting the publicity, and he knew that we had been working in that area for 3-4 years, you know. So my position to him was, well, you know, don't worry about that, because we're not in it for the publicity. You know, we want to try to see change come about. But in terms of Albany, the impression is that, you know, there was criticism of Martin in Albany, and that there was some reservations about what happened and how he operated in Albany. But it's important to understand that the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee's people were on ground, that they were there, you know, enduring hardships long before that.